Here's what I did to rapidly accelerate my development as a high school baseball player. And just to put it out there, this might not necessarily work for you, but I know for a fact it worked for me. So I guess let's just start my baseball journey around like seventh or eighth grade. I wasn't always the best player. To be honest with you, I really wasn't. I played on this travel ball team, the Lakewood Ranch Longhorns, had a ton of fun. I also played on Maryland Baseball Academy. I think that was around my eighth grade year. And I wasn't always the best. I didn't really necessarily I took the game serious back then. I trained, but I didn't know how to train really. I remember being in eighth grade on that Maryland Baseball Academy team. Kids were hitting home runs on big fields. On the big fields, this was a couple of years after we've transitioned onto the big fields. And I was amazed that these kids my age were able to hit home runs because I literally told myself I could never do that. I would never be able to hit a home run. I didn't have the strength, the power, the quickness, the pop. I just didn't have it in me. So to kind of set the frame, especially around my eighth grade year, I wasn't always the best on my team, but I knew I played competitive baseball. I didn't necessarily stack up, and I wasn't the best as far as like my offensive production, but my defense was pretty solid. That's one thing I'll be able to self reflect on and say, my glove was pretty. I was a pretty sure-handed defender. Once the flip between middle school and high school happened, my freshman year, for those that don't know, I attended high school up north at Severna Park High School in Severna Park, Maryland. I was a freshman on varsity. Preseason, though, I just remember this complete discomfort of not knowing how to prepare for a high school baseball season. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff that goes into it. There were some facilities, there weren't many facilities, but there were some facilities in Maryland, in the Severna Park area, that the varsity baseball players would train at. And I just remember having conversations with my parents saying, like, how do I get into that inner circle? How do I train like the varsity baseball players? Because I want to be on varsity as a freshman. And I think I went one time to that facility and they like kicked me out because I didn't belong or I wasn't part of a membership. I don't remember. It might have been like an exclusive workout just for the varsity guys, right? So fast forward to the tryouts. I made varsity as a freshman. I will never forget when Coach McCandless told me that. I just broke down. I was so mentally exhausted because I wanted that so bad. I wanted to play on varsity so bad. And when he delivered that news, I just got moved to tears, really, out of happiness, out of the suspense. I remember he told me last. So there's, let's say, 40 kids that tried out for varsity. I was the 40th kid that went over to the first base dugout. We were all waiting at the third base dugout, and one by one they would call us over to the first base dugout, and I was the last guy. So the suspense of just not knowing if I made varsity or not. I know I had a pretty solid tryout, but I didn't know. I was very skeptical on if I was going to play with JV or varsity. I didn't know where I stacked up. So they delivered the news. I was on varsity. That freshman year of playing baseball on varsity, I always refer to it. I was in bloody waters, to be honest with you. I was a freshman on varsity. There were sophomores and juniors that I was taking the place over. And ultimately, my freshman year head coach made sure that that was not going to happen. He gave me the keys to be a leader my freshman year on varsity. I was a starting shortstop. I was a starting pitcher. I pitched really well, and I even started the state championship game. It was at the Ripken Experience in Maryland, where the Aberdeen Ironbirds play. And I did not perform well that game. I went 2/3 of an inning. I gave up 6 runs, and I didn't even make it out of the first inning. Let's just say the nerves got to me, right? And ultimately, after that freshman year, it was very devastating. We lost that state championship game. The last game for a lot of those seniors, they were moved to tears because we just had such a special group. We bonded, we got along. It was awesome. So after that freshman year of playing varsity baseball, I'll never forget also, I went to the Naval Academy and went on my first college visit. It was pretty cool. But after that freshman year of varsity baseball up in Maryland, technically referred to as a small pond, my family and I moved to Sarasota, Florida for better baseball. And this was honestly a culture shock. Baseball was the vibe at my high school. I instantly knew I had to get to work. I basically did the high school baseball program my entire sophomore year, my entire 10th grade year. And that's where I solely developed with the team. I wasn't really able to do any extra work that sophomore year because, to be honest with you, I wasn't prepared for a very well structured high school baseball program. So it felt like I just couldn't do any extra work. It felt at the time impossible to do anything extra. So after my sophomore year in the summertime, this is when I got after it. This was when the flip of the switch moment, if you will. I conducted two-a-days. In the morning, my high school baseball program had an incredibly well structured out summer program from like 9 until 12. That was great. I went home, ate some lunch, and then I think it was around like 5, 6 o'clock. I would go to the local YMCA, do the two-a-day. I would do that extra workout at night, just making sure that I was doing everything necessary. I'll never forget also on weekends, we would have perfect game tournaments down in Fort Myers. And this was when I flipped that switch and I was on a mission. Nothing was going to stop me. The fall of my junior year is when I was the most challenged, honestly. I was challenged in time management. I wanted to be better than what I was. I did a velo throwing program and I knew I wanted to increase my 60-yard dash time. And to put it all into perspective, I had around 6 hours of class at my local high school and then 6 hours of working out after high school. So I was tired. Let's just say that. I'll never forget sometimes just getting home, passing out. My mom would wake me up for dinner. I would eat my dinner and I would go straight back to bed until the morning, until the next day. I was exhausted. So this is when I saw the quickest development in my career, believe it or not. My 60-yard dash time went from around like 8.5 seconds down to 7.3 seconds. And in my mind, the reason why I wanted my 60-yard dash time to get down, because I wanted to, let's say, stay eligible to continue my path being a position player in college. I was a two-way pitcher and shortstop. So I just wanted to keep that option open. And I knew being an athlete, running fast, was a for sure way of making sure that I stay an athlete. And in these college recruiters' minds, I can compete at the next level. My pitching velocity, since I was doing that velo throwing program, went from 82 to 88 miles an hour in just 3 months. This basically, in turn, made me the ace of my high school baseball program, which was pretty cool. My high school, Sarasota High School, it's very rich in history and tradition. Guys like Casey Kelly, Scooter Gennett, Ian Desmond, to name a few. It's pretty crazy because we have a plaque on the side of our press box, and there are probably hundreds of draft picks and probably thousands of college baseball players that have come out of my high school, Sarasota High School. So it's a very rich baseball program. And now I'm the starting shortstop and I'm the ace on the mound. I've definitely come a long way from the beginning of my sophomore year of high school when I was undersized. My confidence levels were at an all-time low. But the one thing that I had was I had that overall belief that it was all going to work out, which it did. So after my high school junior season, I played on the national powerhouse FTB, and we had a crazy good team that year led by Jared Goodwin. I pitched very well in front of an NC State coach at a perfect game tournament in East Cobb, Georgia. Right after that game, Coach Jared told me I was going to be able to choose where I wanted to play college baseball. And this was one of the coolest moments of my entire life. And that came true around 1 or 2 weeks later when all of the top 3 schools offered me a scholarship to play at their university. It was really, really special. So look, wherever you're at in your high school, developmental curve, don't rush it. Let it come. And when that fire starts to burn and drives you, don't let yourself off the hook easy. Keep going because that fire is going to hit at some point in time. Keep working out. Keep going. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot, but it will be worth it. You have to believe it. Look, I was a late bloomer, but I also put in the work to bloom, Some high school baseball players out there are living in this false sense of hope, thinking that they will bloom without putting in the extreme amount of work it takes to play at the next level. You have to be willing to sacrifice to grow.